and welcome you. Hmm. So I think I found out how the webinar option is not the best way to go. That's the result of today. um, Welcome. Yes, I was sharing over the last couple of weeks how I was invited to look back on what's happened to me, for me over the last 5 years, and just felt really moved to share and to offer you a little peek inside of what that looks like. So, yeah, why don't we just start, right? The 5 years ago, I was in a pretty bad place. I had been working as a consultant and I was running my own business, change management, change consultancy, executive coaching together with two good friends and colleagues. And I've been doing that for a long time. Really, I was enjoying the work until my body just said, no, we're not going to do this anymore. And that was a really difficult moment because I was forced to let go of everything that I thought was normal, everything that I thought was going to be good, and everything who I thought I was. So everything that my ego identified with, everything that, the status that I had in my world, or thought I had anyway. I had to let that all go. And I, I found myself in this place where actually getting up in the morning was really difficult, and walking up the stairs was like a marathon in itself. So I was in this place where there were a lot of things that I couldn't do anymore, and I had no idea why. And that was hard. That was really hard. There was not a lot of um, hope. There was not a lot of perspective because nobody knew what was going on with me. Nobody had good answers for me. So all in all, I did not go this road very willingly. I went more like kicking and screaming and holding on to anything I could on along the way, any thoughts I had about who I was, about what I was here to do. I was to all relinquish them into the fire and say, well, that's not me. Apparently, that's not for me. And it was a really, really hard couple of years to find out what was happening. And that was something that I had to do myself. And then starting to see the light. But in that first period, my health was gone. I was not able to bring in any money. I had just given birth to my daughter as well. So we had this really tiny baby. And we had two mortgages, just because of the way life turned out up until that point. So that was a time where I had no idea how I was going to make everything work. And I still felt that there was no other way to do this. Hi, Gora. Glad you find your way back. So I was just sharing about where I'd come from. And so this time when I was really without any perspective, without any sense of hope or direction, it was hard to keep going. But in some way I did. And when I look back at it, it has also been my greatest blessing, because I know that there were times. I actually remember one night when I was lying in my bed, I was so tired and I was worrying. I was so scared about money, about how that was going to work out. And that was the moment when I realized that I had these tools that I wasn't using. And that's the moment when I started to feel into the possibilities that were lying inside of me to start creating what I was looking for. And that was a really important moment. It was also the moment when I started to see that this was, it was not an easy path by far, but it was a gift in that there was no other way that I would have surrendered to letting the sacred come into my life, to really surrender to that piece of me, which is such an important part of who I am and what I'm here to do. You know, up till that point, I'd been denying that, pushing that away, kind of trying to keep that to the side. I'd been doing meditation practice and energy healing courses and so much of that work, but kind of hidden away in the corner, like nobody else was to see it. Maybe my very best friends, I would talk about that with them, but it was definitely not something that I would, you know, be in the world with. It was very much something very private and very hidden. And without this health breakdown, I would never have had the courage to bring it into my work. I would never have had that courage. So in a way, for me, this was the only way. And kind of looking back at, wow, that's what it was like 5 years ago. And my goodness, look at where we are right now. That's just amazing. And, you know, where we are right now, it includes the academy. It includes all these soul-based coaches around the world, which is just, wow, so amazing and so beautiful. And but there's a whole other side to this as well that's here now, which is what my life looks like, right? Really practically, right? So my health is a lot better than it was, a lot better. I have a lot more agency about who I am and how I choose to live my life. So yes, I spend time coaching every week. I spend time training. I spend time connecting with people like you around the world, and really building relationships that really feel nourishing to me, and at the same time offering value to other people, and nourishing them. And that's just really beautiful to think that this is considered work now. This is stuff that I would do even if I didn't get paid. It's the things that really light me up. And it's, you know, it's all of that. It's also this incredible journey, like entrepreneurship. I don't come from an entrepreneurial family. You know, my family were teachers and people in healthcare, and we had some scholars and lawyers and those kinds of people, but nothing, nobody would ever imagine being an entrepreneur. So I didn't have any role models close by, and I have a lot of them now because that's what I actively look for. Because this entrepreneurial journey is one big spiritual quest. It is constantly being invited to look at what's holding you back, what's scaring you, what's the next step to take. Why is that the next step to take? But also, why do I not want to do it? Or why would I want to do it? To stay really close to all the old programming and looking at what wants to happen, what would I like to have happen, of course. So that dance is, that's how I would characterize my life right now. But it sits in this incredible container of freedom, right, where I have complete freedom in what hours I work or where I work from. You know, I choose to work from home because that just serves me really well. But I can also travel to Thailand in a couple of months and meet up with friends from around the world, and just continue my work. Like, that's just amazing. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have dreamt that possible at all. And you know, the freedom and time that I have now, it also means that I can choose how I want to be a mum, right? My daughter is 7 now, and I can be there after school every day. I can bring her to school every day. When there's something happening at school, they have a performance or there is whatever thing that they think of in class, I can be there. I can be part of that if I want to. She wants me to. And that's just something that in my old life would never have happened, would never have been possible. And that's just an incredible gift. And it's, I can be that for my girl. I can do that for my husband. I'm with my husband as well. And I can take the time to be in the woods. I can play my violin. Yes, I was the really not so cool kid playing the violin and listening to like heavy metal music in high school. But it's something that I love doing and I love learning. And I'm not very good at all, but it's just something I can use my time to do that during the day. I can just do some work, do some play, making music, do something else, go outside. So I can really follow this flow inside me now that I've found the permission to do that. Just taken me a little while. So that's the reality of my life now. And that's, I had no idea that was possible 5 years ago. I had a longing, but I had no idea what it could look like. So I'm just thrilled, well, beyond thrilled to see how it evolves in here. And it's the reason why it works so well is because it's so aligned with the work that we do in soul-based coaching. It is so possible to learn to really tap into yourself, to listen what's happening inside you, and to create from that space. And that's the beauty that I see evolving every time that I work with clients or I see our coaches in training working with their clients. This is what starts to happen. This is the seed that starts to be sown in every session. And let me just stop here for a moment and just check in with you. Any thoughts or questions that come up as you're listening? What does it stir up in you when you hear this? It's really lovely to hear. You can type or you can talk as well. I think you can all unmute yourself if you wanted to talk. It'd be really lovely to hear what happens in you when you listen to me talking about this. Adriana. You wanna speak, Adriana?
Yeah, a bit. I really want to listen to the rest of the story, but just for now, I totally resonate with the part that, when you say, I didn't have any idea that this was possible, because also when I came to Holland, I had no idea what will happen here. And if it was possible to, I really felt like this is the place for me, but I had no idea how I could stay here coming from Eastern Europe. So, and I know that when you just follow, somehow managed to be, I was also not totally okay with not knowing, but there is something that takes you there. The calling is there and take you there. So I just resonate a lot with this.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, there was something that was driving me forward, right? And that's something that call is something that was calling me, beckoning me to it. But there was also a drive in me that was just so incredibly, I was not prepared to stay where I was. It was like there was no fiber in my being who was okay with staying where I was. That was just not an option. And this is part of my kicking and screaming as well.
Yeah, the breakdown can become a breakthrough indeed.
Yes,
So beautiful.
absolutely. Yes, they kind of sometimes they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, sometimes I meet people that are health-wise in a similar situation. And I remember once having a conversation with a girl who was wheelchair bound by that time that we spoke. And one of the things I shared with her was about the incredible difference it made for me giving up on gluten. Like that was it. That's definitely not all, but it was an important piece in my journey. And all she was saying was, "Wow, that would seem really hard to me." And I was like, my jaw kind of dropped to the floor in that moment, just kind of being confronted with this really big um, difference in us. It's like my thought was, well, being in a wheelchair, that seems hard to me. It's like if there's only a slight chance that that could be reversed, because there's been many examples of that, I would be on it. Like in that moment, I would not. So that's also something, right? It has to be inside of you. There has to be something that wants to create something or longs for something or wants something that isn't there yet and was just not prepared to settle. It was not, it's
To surrender. Yeah.
like you, Adriana, like you could have said, "Oh, it's too scary. Right? I don't know what's going to happen. It's too scary. I'll just stay home."
I just couldn't know.
No, yeah, exactly. It's like there's this thing in you that wants to, it wants something.
I
It's,
don't know how, but in that moment later, I mean, in life, I didn't find it that easy like it happened then to just go with, yeah, whatever was to follow something. I was not sure what, but just, yeah, I knew in my heart that this was,
yeah,
so I have to go this way. Yeah.
yeah. So much of that is learning to
Yeah.
surrender, right? And Uma, that's what you were saying about what was the surrendering process like.
Yeah, that's the key, surrender. Yeah.
God, yes, it was actually one of the things I wrote about in the invitation for this was like the key thing that made all the difference is when I started to learn about surrender. And that surrender was not this thing that this girl in the wheelchair was doing. That's not surrender, not in my eyes anyway. Like surrender to me always felt a little bit like throwing your hands in the air and kind of go, well, I don't know. And then being this little boat in this stormy sea that gets bashed about, without any kind of control over what happens. And luckily, I found that it wasn't that, because that didn't appeal to me very much. But there was an aspect of that. It was a big lesson that I learned earlier on, and that's a whole different story. But I'll just share a little bit of that now. When I was 30, one thing I knew is that I wanted to be a mum. And actually, it was 20. I was 28 when this started to play out, and I was like up and coming, working, ambitious, and all the rest of it. And then I just knew I want to be a mum by the time I'm 30. And then, starting to take the steps to make that happen, and then finding out that it didn't happen for years and years, like almost 10 years of not having that dream come true. That was a big lesson in life not being at our bidding. Like that, sometimes you can want something with all your heart, with all your might, but it's just not within your control. So I'd had that lesson, and then this came up as well. And actually, I'll come to that in a moment, because there are a couple of pieces to that surrender process that I would love to touch back on. So if you just hang on for a little bit, Uma, I will dive back into that. But there was definitely this sense of, so it's not the boat in the storm, but what it is for me is about having this really rooted intention, like that, to anchor me in what I want, and then to surrender in what life brings up, and learning to trust that what comes up is actually serving me, even though it can be uncomfortable, it can be painful, it can be not what my ego wanted at that point. I just, times I prayed for fucking ease. There, like many, many times. But that was learning to see surrender as that, to be really anchored in my intention. That gave me the stability and also the trust, in a way, that was what I was moving towards. And then kind of opening up, rather than trying to kind of hold on to this bit, or hold on to that bit. Yeah. Thank you for that question, and we'll come back to the rest of that. And Cora was sharing that rooted was the word coming up. Yeah. To be in that flow and abundance, the roots bring the nourishment for sure. And learning to build roots that were really my own, like that were not something, that was just living in my mind, or that I was borrowing from others, or but really learning to put my own roots down, which also has to do with that intention. Like, you can only have that strong intention when the roots are down, when you're trusting in your own knowing. And that's the peace that soul-based coaching has brought me. This incredible trust in my own knowing. And that's how the roots grow deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's also got a lot to do with it's got a lot to do with the way that we work in soul-based coaching. And yeah, maybe you can show that slide you did. Don't know if you can follow me, because I'm just talking. And let me see. I think it's number 7. It's like when I started to do this work and started to craft what soul-based coaching was becoming, I really gave myself permission to let go of all the stuff that wasn't serving me from the corporate setting, and bringing in the things that I felt I needed to work with clients, and to be in a good state myself as well, to really serve myself. So these are some of the things that we don't do for our clients. And they signal to, they point towards what is needed to bring people in that absolute trust in themselves. Right? So things we don't do are things like reframing, where we're like offering a different perspective on the same thing to make the meaning of that thing change for somebody else. And we're not even changing their words, because changing words already takes them outside of their own experience of their knowing and their truth. We never explain to a client, oh, well, I can see why this is happening to you. We don't even analyze the situation to come up with any answers. We're not interested in telling people what to do. So, when I'm talking about what I did for myself, I wasn't interested in telling myself what to do either. Right? It was going inside to explore and to let go of all the judgments that I was having, because I was having so many judgments about myself, about what was right or what wasn't right. So none of that. And then also no blaming or pitying. And that was a tricky one for me. Not to blame myself, not to pity myself even. And also no pushing, no pulling, no butting in to what our clients are going through. But really honoring what happens. So that's what we do, which is the next slide, which is really listening to people's truth. So really, really listening. And then to mirror that back without judgment. Right, but also without escape, in the sense that we really want people to see their own patterns. So this was about, for me, it was about learning to look at myself and see what I was seeing without that judgment there. Because that way we invite people to really include and transcend their current reality. It's about, when everything is as it is right now, what would you like to have happen? Like that miracle question, we keep asking that. When it sucks today and I can't get up the stairs, what would I like to have happen, given that that's just reality at the moment and no more than that, right? And of course, on some days I would think like, I just want to be well and I wish I could climb the Himalaya, and like that's what I would want to do, actually, maybe not actually do it, but feel like I could. And that just seems so far out of reach. And then to continue in that exploration and go, right, and when you really want that, and when that seems so far out of reach, what would you like to have happen now? To bring it to that edge of what is possible to influence. Right, and in this way, learning to hold space for our clients, but equally so for ourselves. Where we are allowed our emotions, and where we also know that we're not our emotions, right? So this is how we start to see our clients, but also ourselves as divine human beings with powers that we have no idea of, and that we can keep on growing into, so to speak. And this is how we learn to trust our clients, we learn to trust the process, and also we learn to trust ourselves and this wisdom deep within us. So we don't come up with answers. What we do see is change starting to unfold, and sometimes it starts small, and sometimes it gets to be really big inside that change. And there is no way of knowing how quickly change can unfold. So for me, from that time 5 years ago to now, the first 2 years were really tiny changes. But I knew I knew in my gut that I was going in the right direction. So there were tiny changes, and learning to see that they were changes, that it was bringing me in the direction that I wanted to go in. And, one of the things that really helped me was to learn that, for example, my gut health was severely compromised, that it takes 2 to 3 years for your intestines to start healing. So just knowing that, having that information come up in my field, which was what I was starting to trust, that gave me this sense of making sense of what was happening, at least part of what was happening for me. So listening being a very, very important part of this. Maybe we can stop the share for a moment here. And we can see each other again. Yay, thank you. Yes, now listening being something really, really important, which seems kind of obvious when we say that, but listening is also something that's, like when you hear me talk now, immediately all sorts of ideas come up, right? All sorts of feelings come up, all sorts of things start bubbling in your awareness. Am I right? If I am, just raise your hand, or just do, am I right? Anything going on inside you when you're listening, right? Because it's just the way that human beings are trained to listen in this world, is to start making sense of it from their own perspective, from their own gosh, what's the word? Escape me. Anyway, from their own experiences, the way that their own internal systems are organized, right? We start to engage with what we're hearing immediately. So really listening is about letting that go and opening up to what actually is there. And I'm just starting, I'm aware of the time, and I'm aware of what time it is for Uma. So I think what might be really interesting is to hear a little bit about Judith's story. Just as we have another beautiful example here about a personal journey and the way that soul-based coaching has kind of guided her through that. And this is also quite a while ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you started to do this work.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I think I was the first follower. In a way. You tricked me in.
Moi?
No, the method really tricked me in. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Because, obviously we don't do tricks. Wow.
No.
No, but I remember one of the first things that you told me when we spoke, Judith, is that that you were at this point in your life when you felt you were really aware that you were being called to do something that was really big and that was really scaring you. And I remember you saying that it was like standing at the top of this really high diving board. Right, that's an English word, right? So really high up over the pool and feeling really scared and not even enjoying the thought of swimming itself. Like that wasn't even something that you wanted to, and yet you felt like you had to dive off. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I do remember that. I still know where I was sitting when I told you that.
So when we work a lot with metaphors in soul-based coaching, and that's because they hold so much information. So this was a very strong metaphor that popped up immediately when we started doing the work. And a lot happened, right? I think did we have 5 conversations and that time? I think something like that.
Yeah, 5 or 6, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And so can you remember what that journey was like?
That journey. Well, it was the first thing that the first thing that I noticed that for the first time I didn't have to analyze anything. As a client, I could just kind of lean back, not even literally, but I could feel like I could lean into the process, and that I was in charge. Not in charge, but I had the lead over every step I took and into the direction that I wanted to go, which was kind of the first time I don't think I really had an answer. But you kept coming up with the question, and what would you like to have happen? And I believe, as you said, that it's really a lifesaver. And it gave me back my lead in life, my lead in the process that we were going through. So I cleaned up stuff that I didn't know that were there. Mm-hmm. And I still don't know what it was, but it was gone. It needed to change. So there was really a lot happened during that process.
Yeah. Yes. And hey, Sylvia Ann, I'm so glad you found your way back. Oh, she can't hear me yet. So, hi, Sylvia Ann. So good that you found your way back.
Are you talking to me, Annemiek?
I was talking to you.
Oh my gosh, I am so frustrated. I'm so sorry. How much did I miss and what happened? Because somebody else got bounced off.
Well, I will talk you through it, and I'll just tell you where we are, and then there's going to be a recording, and you can watch the first part as well. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's okay. Yeah, so right now we're just checking in with Judith, and she's sharing about her journey in soul-based coaching, which started, I think, also about 5 years ago, a little bit like that, around that time. So yes, I remember that part of that journey for Judith was about her walking through this really dark forest, like lots of trees, and there wasn't a lot of clarity, and she didn't know where to go. And that was a really clear metaphor for her about what it was like in her life at that time, right? And then through the coaching, what happened was that as she was exploring that, and I wasn't analyzing or telling her what to do, but I was asking her, what would you like to have happen, and helping her make these changes in the moment, so that as she was walking through that forest, the sky started to be a little bit lighter, and then in the like she could see, like far away, she could see fires where there were people, and she wanted to go there. So she started to walk there in her metaphor experience. That's what happened. And by doing that, every time she was training herself to feel where she needed to go. What you were just saying, Judith, about you got your lead back in your life, is that every time that you were kind of looking at how is it and where am I and where do I want to go, she was practicing that in metaphor. And that brought her into this inner experience of where she did know where to go, how she noticed that actually she always did know where to go. And then there was this beautiful moment where you came to this field, like in the Alps. Remember that one? Yes, that was so gorgeous. So this is part of the journey that she was on, her inner journey. And it was this beautiful field of Alps. I think there were all sorts of flowers. And what she wanted to do was run and dance in that field, right? And then she found herself standing on the side, not able to step in. And that was a beautiful moment. I will never forget that. And with every client that I work with, there is things like this. But here, the beauty of this one was that she felt like she wanted to step in, and at the same time, she couldn't. And as a coach, it's like in normal coaching, if you would get to the stage where you would work in this metaphor, but what you would do is go, right, so what needs to happen for you to step into that field? Let's get clarity, let's make it happen. What we do here is we stay in the tension. So I invited her to stand on the edge of that field, and I was like, I'm not going to ask her to take a step. I'm not going to do it, because then I take the lead, right? So I'm going to...
And that was the moment that I was thinking, just ask, because when you ask, I will do it. And it wasn't happening. And even till that you asked me to stand up, and at that moment I was in my bedroom, so I had to put the laptop in a place where I could stand, which meant that it was on the bed, and I was standing in front of the bed, and I was just standing there knowing that I wanted to take a step, but I just couldn't. I literally couldn't. And it was until later that I understood how it works, how that inner and outer space are connected, and that they come together, and that
beautiful. So picture this, right? So Judith, with her laptop, talking to me on my laptop, and this inner exploration of her being on the edge of this field, because that's what it feels like in her. And I'm asking her to stand up and kind of stand on that field and kind of see what happens if she's going to take a step, like physically take a step. And she felt like she couldn't move. Now, isn't that interesting, right? So the way that things start to shift then is to really I was helping her stay with the longing and with the frustration of it not happening, because that's when things can start to shift. Sure, I could have told her, right, take a step, but I wouldn't have helped her then. I would have just confirmed the pattern that was already there, right? So I was there. I think we didn't even, nothing happened in that session, did it? This is where we left it.
Yeah, which was quite uncomfortable.
Which was very frustrating in that moment, yeah. But whoa, did it have effect, right? Because her whole system then started to like protest, like, but I want to take that step. And it's like, yeah, so it's up to you. You can do that anytime, any moment. But none of the, I'm not verbalizing any of this because there's no need for that. It's about helping the system see itself and see what's happening, so that it can start to make different kinds of choices and can start to kind of feel like, ooh, but I want this to be different. And she did take the step. She did run and dance in the field. And then also towards the end, I remember you standing on the top of this hill with a really clear view and a really inner compass of what it is that you wanted. Maybe not knowing how to get there, like the big goal that you know that you're called to do, but knowing what like the first step is going to be, knowing what the first step is going to be, and always having that sense of direction for yourself, right?
Yes, and that's still there, and it's a metaphor that still stands. It grows and gets stronger and has new symbols added to it, new things happening in. But yes, it's where I, for the first time, before I started the coaching, I was kind of scared of my own powers. I knew that it was there. I knew that the thing that I was called to do, that was enormous.
Yes, it was to save the world, by the way.
Yeah.
like literally. Yeah.
Yes, and by the end of it, I wasn't that afraid anymore for that power, and I could use it to feel what next step I needed to take, which wasn't always that clear, maybe, but I could more and more feel, and still learning to work with that, more and more feel, okay, this is my next step. Not sure where it ends up, but I know it's the way.
Yeah, exactly. Great. And how about the diving board? Is it still as high? Is it still as scary?
Well, I had a diving board. Well, a couple of months ago, which was even higher.
A real life one?
No, in metaphor as well. But the diving board isn't there that much anymore. It's so much easier for me to learn to take new steps without exactly knowing what's going to happen, but to trust the process and just see what comes out of it. And now when I do stand on that high diving board, which I was on I think 4 months ago, which was even higher, felt even higher, and I really couldn't do it. And then I figured, okay, and when I'm on this diving board and I feel so scared, what would I like to have happen? And suddenly I knew I wanted to be a glider into the pool, and on my way down I will get these things that I need to know to get into that pool. And from the moment I knew that, it was okay, and I could just step on the glider and go on, do what I really wanted to do.
Gorgeous. Yeah, and in this way, things happening in metaphor become really practical, right? Because this was about a project that you needed to do, wasn't it?
No, it had to do with training and.
Great. Yeah. So something really practical in life feels like that high diving board, and then all of a sudden, just by asking that one question, you had the answer to what needed to happen, and it wasn't about any of the well, I have to prepare myself this way, or I just have to think this of myself, or I just have to ground myself that way. No, it was just I have to step into this glider and everything will be okay. And she could, and it was okay. It's like it makes change that easy. It's not change in our experiences, our thoughts. It's not something that we have to actively do anymore. It's an invitation to where our system starts to just realign itself in a different way, and then the change happens. So that makes it and then I'm going to tap back into that question that you were asking, Uma, about that process of surrender. It makes it so much easier to surrender when you know that you have these things that you can trust, like the glider, like the sense of, looking for the fires in between the trees. It is this way of learning to navigate within yourself that really opens up this like universe of support that you can tap into directly, that you don't need anybody else to do that. So that's what the beauty of working with these metaphors in this way kind of offer you. Like that's true for clients, but as a coach, you can very much use that for yourself as well. And seeing that happen again and again for clients, that also rubs off, of course. It's like seeing this deep, deep trust that can happen. And hi, Amy. So good that you found us. I will be posting the replay so that you can watch the beginning and we'll see what you've missed. So we're just tapping into. I've talked about my story. I've also talked about how soul-based coaching as a modality has really helped me travel this path and make all of this possible. And then we're also reflecting on some of the observations that people are making. And one of the great questions that came was about the process of surrender, so how that worked. And so soul-based coaching has given me access to these resources, to this knowing inside me and knowing that I can trust that no matter what. But there were other lessons as well that really helped me in that process of surrender. So I think the biggest lessons of my messy road were, well, first of all, that I wasn't crazy. Like it wasn't, that my intuition was spot on, and this was about the health piece, but actually about all of it. That when you're experiencing health issues, and I know there's many people that can relate to this, but that don't fit into the categories of like the medical system, then you're pretty much left to your own devices. And the number of people, doctors, who've said to me, well, you just need to learn to live with this, or maybe cognitive behavioral therapy is something that you could do, as in, this is your problem, it's like your fault, it's like your mistake, you're like doing something wrong. And I was just like, no, that's not right, it's not true. But it's taken me a while to see the evidence of that. So now I know for 100% sure that I know what I'm talking about, and I'm not the only one. But learning to trust your own instincts in this process is incredibly important. And then another thing I learned was to always ask myself, and what would I like to have happen? Given that it is as it is right now, knowing that the way it is right now is not how it's going to have to always be, but given that this is how it is right now, what would I like to have happen? Right, to always be in the, I was going to say driver's seat. Is that true? In a way it is. Like, you don't control what happens, but you can decide to actively engage with what's going to be happening or what's possible to be happening. So always asking that question with lots of grace, right? Lots of grace for yourself and tenderness. And then also being willing, if you really want to make changes in your life, like big changes, like stuff that's happened for me over the last 5 years, is to be willing to keep stepping outside of your comfort zone. And that's like an interesting balance, because it's not about pushing you into something that you're not ready for. It's not about like making something happen, like, like squashing something into that shape. But it is about being willing to find the edge of what you think is comfortable or normal. Because a lot of what keeps us comfortable is not is learned behaviors. They are things that we've learned from our parents, from our society. They're not necessarily ours. They're not necessarily true. So being willing to find the edge again and again, and being willing to face what's there and just see what that next step is that you can take. That's also been a really important lesson for me. Not to overstep, but to be able to be willing to go the distance to that edge. And yes, tons and tons of grace when you do that, because there's funky stuff coming up and things will happen, and that's okay. It doesn't happen because you're not doing it right. It doesn't happen because whatever, you deserved it in some way. It's just part of life. It can happen. So tons and tons of grace. And then having things like a meditation or journaling practice, something that keeps you on that edge so that you don't go into what you habitually do. Like, it's really easy to kind of deceive ourselves. We're all like trained to do that as human beings. It's how we're sane. If we can't deceive ourselves, we end up in a mental hospital. But to really look at what's happening for you, like really look at what's going on for me. Where is the edge? What am I being asked to look at here? What's my truth in this right now? Is that still a truth? Is there space in there for healing? Is there space for opening things up? So bringing that kind of exploration, curiosity to it can also really help. Along with gratitude as a practice, which has been just life-changing for me as well. It's been such an important part of this. Learning to be grateful, learning to tap into the energy of gratefulness, I should maybe say, even when things are hard or suck or are really, really painful. Not because those emotions aren't true or those parts of your experience aren't true, but to see that there's also always stuff to be grateful for, and to feel that as much as you feel the other stuff. Because the joy, the gratefulness really leads to joy. It leads to this source of joy. And when you can also tap into that, the other stuff is a lot easier to navigate, right? It doesn't have to be either or. My system for a long time, it was either or. It was, or it was the bad stuff happening, or it was the really cool stuff happening, and then I could be grateful. And actually, when I started to have both, connect to both, they could kind of help each other out, if that makes sense. So if you don't have a gratitude practice, I highly recommend it. Something to tap into what you feel grateful for every day, something that really makes you feel it. So for a long time, I've shared on Facebook for over 2 years, I think. I'm doing it more privately, but for me, that was a really good way to put energy into that, to really feel. So by writing about it, I was feeling about why it made me feel grateful. Very, very supportive process. So that thing that really turned it around, like the thing that made the biggest difference, was learning to trust myself. Really learning to trust my own inner wisdom. And when I say that, I can also feel like the weight of the struggle until I got to that point. Because there was a lot in me that wasn't used to doing that wasn't convinced that I could be trusted, that I had this knowing to be trusted. So this is where the work of soul-based coaching has really come in to guide me. Because when you start to see that no matter what the thing is that you're working on, that there is knowing and resourcefulness and beauty in your system, that starts to change everything. So then you can also start to, it really helped me to ask for support in a different way, not in the please rescue me kind of way that I had tried a long time before, but in a way where I was owning my process, like Judith was sharing. I was leading my process of getting better health-wise. I was deciding whether this specialist, watchman, whatever they were called, was making sense, if what they were doing was related to what my experience was or not. I didn't feel at their mercy anymore. I didn't feel at the mercy of life anymore. And this is because I'd really started to have this connection with this truth that is so much deeper. Right? And then also I could make the decisions to invest in myself, like what therapy or supplement or training I would do that was really serving me in this process that I felt called to do. But that part of really learning to trust myself, that was when surrender finally kicked in for my that was the part where I could really go, okay, so I can trust this knowing that is in me, and I can trust what is coming to me in life. And then there's this dance that happens. This dance where you go with what is and you state what you would like to have happen, and you clean up the mess where it needs to be cleaned up. And I'm talking inner mess as well as outer mess where there is outer mess. And then it's step by step, and things will start to happen. Okay, I've talked for a long time now, so I would love to hear from you what's going on in you as you're listening, any questions or any things that resonate. So you can write in the chat if you want. And love to hear a little bit about what goes on with all of this. It's a slightly different type of gathering than we normally have. Amy, as I explained to the other ones as well, normally we do more practice and more doing. Here I'm also just sharing from this experience of the last couple of years. So just give you a moment to share what happens for you as you're listening. Because this whole thing, where it has brought me is that it makes me really happy when I like to bring it full circle. When I look at where I came from 5 years ago, there was just, I'm so happy that I don't have to fit into these boxes anymore. You know, the boxes of the corporate world and the boxes of the role that I had taken up. There is so much more flexibility and space for me to follow that call and to make the changes that need to be made or the adjustments that need to be made. And I also don't have to compromise myself anymore. I don't have to compromise my integrity by leaving out what is most important to me. And that's not the same for everybody. It really doesn't need to be. Being in that integrity is really healing on a soul level as well. There's no pushing or pulling. I don't have to pretend I'm something that I'm not. You know, even now it's like, right, so talking to colleagues who are also doing online trainings, for example, and they're doing like loads of makeup to really look good on camera. And I go, interesting. For a long time, I haven't done any makeup because it just messes up my immune system. So I'm getting a little bit better now. So it's like, could I do that now? Maybe you would think more of me if I did, right? If I'm all have the right lipstick or something. And I'm like, oh no, Annemiek, that's not what we do. It's really not what we do. What we do is we're here. We show up as we are. We follow that. That's the offering. To give everyone permission to do that and not be anything else than they're doing. And thank you for sharing that, Sylvia. And it's good to have words to put to the inner work, the journey. Yeah, because it is a journey, isn't it? It's not a, right, I just do this, this, and this, and then I'm there. And that's going to be done and dusted, finished. It's a continuous journey for sure. Yeah. Yes. And just kind of looking back as well, just that freedom that I have to shape my work, to shape my life. I still don't have full control over it. My daughter doesn't do what I want her to do when I tell her to. Well, sometimes she does. But it's just having this space and freedom in my life to make it possible is just amazing. It really, really is. I'm not saying it's easy all the time. Definitely is not that. Because it's still that dance of going to the edge. It's also because I'm the kind of person who doesn't settle, who does not want to settle. And I feel that when I listen to my calling, I'm in my integrity to keep in that growth process. Because there is so much beauty and so much freedom to find there for myself and also to offer others. Yeah. Anybody else wanted to share anything? So from this, I also just wanted to share that if anybody here on the call is interested in also becoming a soul-based coach, that you still have a little window to join us in this next group. We're starting on Wednesday. And it's a really, really beautiful time to start finding that connection within yourself. To start really to trust that this is what the call is about. And to join us in our community. It's lovely to have Adriana here as well, who's fully in the training now. Yeah. I guess it's just so nourishing on so many levels. Sylvia's saying, I know someone who put her faith in you based in large part because you did not wear makeup and your hair was not, my hair not perfect. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Oh, isn't it?
She said that straight out.
Did she? I love that. I love that. Oh gosh, when we can give each other permission to not be perfect, how amazing does the world get to be then, right? Oh, can you just breathe that much more? Thank you for sharing. And Cora was also sharing, the more you hear about my journey, and also the permission you give yourself to be fully you, the more I feel the permission in me is getting life breathed into it. Yes. Oh, thank you for sharing that as well, Cora. I think this is also why I felt called to do this call today, because there's something so freeing in hearing other people speak about their journey. Just kind of knowing what is normal. I don't call myself normal anymore, actually. But like sharing about these processes that so many of us know from so intimately, right? And then also knowing that there are like more ways to navigate that than what you may be familiar with so far. And this is also why, for me, soul-based coaching as a way of working is so liberating for coaches, but also for clients. Yeah. So if you'd like to know more about soul-based coaching, about the training programs that we run, our website is a great place to have a look, but also you can just send me a PM or an email and we can just have a chat. I love having connections with all of you, and I love hearing what it is that you're looking for in your life and what is going to be taking you to your next step in that thing that's calling you, whether you know what it is or not. We've heard you did say that she didn't know what it was that was calling, and I didn't know what it was that was calling. If you would have told me 5 years ago that this is how we would be sitting and this is what I would be doing, I would have gone, no idea. Really? I probably would have gotten scared, like, I can't do that, I can't make that up. So part of it is about just diving in. When you feel the call, to dive in, to go for it. Right, Adriana? That stretch, that step outside of what is familiar and known, and to just...
Yeah, right. I was thinking of that, and actually it's also, I realized my mind was making it into this very big thing, and actually it's just little steps that create something big. So now it feels differently when I just take little steps, and I can so enjoy every little step instead of being afraid of, oh, but this is such a big thing from here to here, and to to create that. Oh, so just every little step can be so amazing and enjoyable, and before you know it, something big happens. Yeah,
absolutely. Something will have been birthed, and you go, wow, is that my life now? And that's kind of what's been happening for me. I'm like, oh, really? Wow.
Big is made of something small, many small things. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
No big thing actually doesn't exist.
Exactly. And isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
Right? It's just that fantasy that we live in this world, that we have to I have to know where it's going to end up, and we have to have the plan, and we have to have it under control so that we know that we can't fail. And you know what? Well, that's again a topic for another day, but like failing, like things not working out as you think they should, which we call failing, it doesn't exist.
No, actually, because what you were saying before about trusting what is, and it's not only about, in my experience, as I realized, and that was a big thing for me, realizing that it's not about trusting that everything will be okay, everything will be nice and fine. And actually, when I'm trusting what is, I'm trusting that whatever happens, even if it feels uncomfortable or it would be maybe something that I don't like very much, it's always for me to see the truth.
Yeah.
And when I know that, I'm not scared anymore. It's just, okay, whatever happens, it will be only for me to help me to see the truth.
Yeah, exactly. And it will help me bring like
from that
things that I've tried many things that didn't work out the way I thought they would, but then always looking at, so how can I stay closer to me? To my non-perfect hair, okay. to the non-makeup thing, okay. So can I go back to my essence, to what is my truth in this moment, and how does that bring me further? How can I be more joyfully aligned to myself? And then, yes, the steps that you get to take are beautiful.
And the beautiful thing is actually that when we drop the need to be somebody particular or somebody else, I have realized that so much energy that is released, that was put into that, it takes so much energy to be someone who you are not. And when you just drop that, there's so much energy freed, and you don't really have to be yourself, because that's impossible. But what's left is, all we can do is just drop the lie about ourselves, and what's left is who we really are. And that's a big realization, actually.
Yeah, and it makes such a big difference. And this is what we see happening for our clients as well. They can drop all of that stuff, like that baggage. They can just drop it because we're not particularly interested in it. We're just helping them kind of again and again. We're just helping them come back to themselves, even deeper to themselves, beyond this level of all the mind chatter and all the blah 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 blah. It's like sinking into this knowing. And then all of a sudden they find themselves on the top of that hill, having this beautiful view and this really great well, yes, I think it was even an expectation that really great things were going to be happening, even if you don't know how they're going to happen yet. Wonderful. So I think we're getting towards that point where we're going to wrap up. Thank you all very much for being here. And before we stop, I would love to hear maybe a sentence or so from everybody about what it has brought you. So it'd be wonderful if you wanted to speak that or type that. What has this time that you were able to be here? And I'm sorry for everybody who got kicked out or couldn't find us. Hoping you found this recording. But what have you found? What has it brought you?
Well, I know the joy of sharing.
Wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, for me, it's again and again following your calling without, well, that's what brought me here. That's what's brought me to the training, because I knew I wanted to save that world and I didn't know how. And instead of wanting to pull that horse that I was used to do, now I have the opportunity to do differently and to feel that again with being here. That's really important.
Yes, because for who doesn't know, Judith is one of our trainers in the academy now, and she's figured out that actually with the tools that she's teaching now, that she can help other people get this ability to lead themselves and each other as well. So this is a great way for saving the world, isn't it, Judith?
It is.
The world is in good hands.
We're very happy to be here. Yes. And Uma is saying that it gave her a lot of hope and clarity. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for staying up so late. I know it's past midnight for you. Definitely. So sleep well. Anybody else want to share?
For me, I think what it's given me is a validation of how I worked with my students and how I tried to live my life, but want to take it to deeper and new levels, and shown me that it's, how do I say this, that even if it is an alternative way or whatever, it's okay. Just connect with other like-minded people is what's really helpful for me.
Yeah, beautiful. Super important. Having that community that is supportive and can really guide you to just like embrace you as you are and help you take your next steps. So super important. It's one of the things that I love about the Invoke community as well. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Sylviane.
Thank you.
Well, having only been on for the very end of it, what it's given me is curiosity.
Good.
About more. So that's where I am.
Great. So why don't, if you like, Amy, we can just have a little chat. You can just get something in the calendar and just have a little chat, because it would be lovely to have a chance to connect with you one-to-one. So if you just want to send me an email, then we can set that up. It'd be lovely.
I already did.
Wonderful. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for speaking. And it was nice that you could make the last little bit of it work. And Akora, I think you unmuted at about the same time, didn't you?
Yeah, good timing. Yeah, I feel very joyful and connected. That is how I feel right now. That's what I got.
Beautiful. So thank you all very much. I will make sure that the information for the training program is in the comments of the original post. Don't know, Judith, if you can quickly find it. If so, she might be able to drop it in the comments, and you can just find it really easily. If not, it's gonna find your way in an email. We have a little window if you wanted to join, starting on Wednesday, but really would need to know that you're joining by tomorrow. So tomorrow is our very, very last day to join. And yes, that's something that you're interested in, let me know. And I'm sure we can find a time to chat. Wow. Thank you all. Thank you all for watching the replay as well. And I very much look forward to seeing you when I'll be seeing you. Have a beautiful rest of your night. Sleep well, Uma. And have a lovely day or evening from wherever you are. And see you when I see you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I loved everybody.